Yo, 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 mga kabayo, what's up, and welcome to Inay. Thank you, our time and space to learn life lessons from lessons about life. Happy New Year! Let's have a rundown of the things that we've learned from the previous episodes from last year. Kung tinatamad na kayong panoorin, ito lang yung brief summary. Life on Earth wants to keep on reproducing, but in order to reproduce, you first have to survive. To survive, ano nga sabi natin kailangan natin? Kailangan natin ng ewan. Ano nga uli yung ewan? Energy, water, air, nutrients. Ewan. You have to have that ideal surface area to volume ratio that matches the environment where you are. Those are the things that we learned in a nutshell. Everything that we've mentioned about survival, reproduction, and having that ideal surface area to volume ratio, there is a particular form of organism in biology that is able to do that very efficiently. And by efficiently, we mean really fast and uses the least amount of space and resources.
Can you guess what that is?
The cell. And the cell is the most successful form of life, that the earliest forms of life were all single-celled organisms. And to this day, they make up majority of life on Earth.
Single. And yet, content. Diba? Single.
Why? Why does life have this most fundamental unit as the best version of itself? So much so that all life on Earth needs the cell. Before we have us, we need like one cell first. And then it divides and becomes this multicellular conglomeration of us. But fundamentally, we are composed of teeny tiny cells. Size. Pero lagi namang may exceptions to the rule. There are cells that are like single-cell organisms, pero laki. For the most part, cells are microscopic. They're small. Teeny tiny. And if you're small, you can digest your stuff faster. Because, again, we're talking about surface area to volume ratio. So, lahat ng mga kailangan mong i-GIFS, yung mga sama ng loob na kailangan mong ilabas, mabilis lang lumabas kasi liit-liit mo eh. Yung ewan na kailangan mo, konti lang. Diba? Kasi liit mo lang eh. Diba? You don't need a lot of energy. You don't need a lot of water, air, or nutrients. You can survive on a very small amount. And that's great. And what that does is somehow you just grow faster. And then, if you grow faster, and therefore you survive, you reproduce faster. They eat quickly, they shit quickly, well, they don't even need to pack because they just split. Weird, no? Break tayo! Bloop! When one becomes two, binaliktad yung kanta ng Spice Girls. And ba yan? One way you can think about this is if we compare it to when you're building a house. Kung mas malaki yung bahay mo, mas maraming kailangan na materyales. You need to maintain your big-ass house and you just need more resources to maintain that. If you do want to make another copy of that house, that exact same copy, it's gonna be as intensive. It's gonna take a lot of resources, a lot of stuff, all of these things to put in to make another copy of that house. Whereas, if you have a small house, like yung housing projects na nakikita natin madalas, mga pabahay ni Binay, di ba ang liit-liit? Ang dali-dali nilang kopyahin. It takes less resources. The space is so small. If you're actually living there, it's so easy to maintain. And again, if you want to make another copy of that house, it's so easy. It takes faster time. Pero kung yung cell ang laki, syempre kung hahatiin niya yung sarili niya, siguro
a few moments later.
Slow motion. At tipong, oh my God, ang dami-daming ingredients na kailangan bago ka makagawa ng isang exact copy of yourself kung super laki mo. There has to be a catch, right? They also die pretty quickly. They have a very short lifespan. Siguro, just in a matter of few days, I don't know, few weeks, tapos poop, patay na. Masters ng pag-YOLO. You only live once and then, poop, patay na. Ikli lang kasi ng oras mo para mabuhay. So you have to do everything quickly. You have to grow quickly, and then you have to reproduce quickly. Para by the time your time is up, diba, nagawa mo na yung mga kailangan mong gawin. Diba may kanta yun, yung ano yun, live fast, die young, blah, blah, blah. Another reason that the cell is life's best version of itself is the cell membrane.
Kala mo DNA, no?
I mean, DNA is important. It's a prerequisite for life, of course. Being that it is a crucial component of life, that is a given. So we're not really gonna discuss that. But the cell membrane, actually, hindi siya masyadong binabanggit, but it's why your DNA can do its thing without the fear of entropy. The whole thing about the universe trying to rip you to shreds. If you take away the cell membrane, the DNA alone, like floating alone in the vastness of this universe, is useless. If it's just there, it will be ripped to shreds by other random molecules. It will react with everything else in the external environment, and before you know it, the DNA is poof, it's gone. Hence, the molecules of life need a certain environment to remain stable. This environment is maintained by the cell membrane. Kumaga, that's like nature's plastic bag. It keeps the shit that you don't want outside. It keeps the stuff that you want inside with you. It keeps the environment that you need to be the way that it is. We're not even going to discuss like the rest of the machinery of the cell. Of course, may mga organelles pa na iba, the cytoplasm, everything. All of these parts are important. Okay, gets ko naman yun. They're very important. The size of the cell and the fact that there is a membrane, those are like the basic, prerequisites for everything else. Given that all life on Earth requires a cell first and foremost before everything else, before it becomes more complicated. So mamili ka na lang. You could either be a prokaryotic cell or a eukaryotic cell. You, in particular, at the other end of the screen, are a eukaryote. Out of the 3 domains of life. Oh no, you don't know what a domain is. Pakipanood na lang. I made a video on taxonomy. We discussed that a bit, just so hindi tayo ma-lost when we are discussing life at its different organizational levels. Okay? Out of the 3 domains of life, two out of 3 domains are prokaryotic. And these domains are domain archaea and domain bacteria. And when we say domain, this is a huge group. Can you just imagine how much of life on Earth is just single-celled prokaryotes? Bacteria, archaea. Siguro kung mag-war lahat ng prokaryotes versus eukaryotes, wala na, deads tayo. Bakit sila yung majority of life on Earth? Remember what I said about cells being small? Prokaryotic cells, they are much smaller than eukaryotic cells. So that means everything is like a lot faster. Faster eating, faster shitting, faster reproduction. Plus, they don't really have a lot of organelles. So there's less stuff to maintain overall. Ang liit na nga ng bahay mo, tapos konti pa yung laman ng bahay mo. As in, siguro meron lang isang upuan, lamesa, edi, ang bilis-bilis lang, di ba, linisin nyo? Kung gusto mong kopyahin yung ganong klaseng bahay, ang bilis lang kasi gagawa ka lang ng pader, bubong, di ba, sahig, foundation, tapos lalagyan mo ng isang lamesa, isang upuan, tapos na, may bahay ka na ulit. Another thing about prokaryotes is that aside from having cell membrane, they have cell wall. So may membrane na, may wall pa. They can withstand harsher conditions, especially for the domain archaea. Sa mga lugar na hindi kayang tirhan ng tao, sila kaya nilang tirhan. Like we said, prokaryotes are really, really small. Plus, apart from a cell membrane, they have a cell wall. And to put the cherry on top, they do not have a nucleus, and their DNA is circular, and it's not wrapped up or bundled up in these proteins that are called histones. If you need to make another copy of yourself, your DNA is easier to access. The recipe book that gives you the instructions to make another copy of yourself for prokaryotes, it's just bam, right there. Go ahead, copy that shit. Hindi siya naka-gift wrapper, hindi siya nakalagay sa box, tapos hindi pa siya nakalagay sa plastic. Sinadya niya yung libro, nakatiwangwang, bubuklatin mo na lang. But for eukaryotes, ganun kasi yung DNA nila. It's inside a nucleus, and then it's sort of coiled up in histones. So there's a lot of unraveling that has to take place before, things even start to get copied. These are just a few reasons prokaryotes have achieved
world domination.
But hey, their success is our success too. So while some of these microbes can make us stink, make us sick, or worse, even kill us, for the most part, we have been able to harness their abilities to advance our species. Sino ba sa inyo yung mga mahilig sa beer? How about cheese? Everything's better with cheese. Bread, kimchi, bagoong, yogurt. How about the fact that you are alive thanks to modern medicine? Or vaccines? If you're craving a certain food, It's not just, and you're wondering, what the hell, why do I want to eat this food? I don't even really like it. Kasi may mga alaga ka. Mga alaga mo, gusto nila yung ganung pagkain. If they can dictate what your brain is telling you to eat, to look for, who's really running the show, telling us what to do? It's those little prokaryotes in our bodies. Think about that. In biology, you can be the small thing, and then you could do so much with your life. Do you really have to be this big thing? Or could you find success even in the smallest things? A lot like the prokaryotes that just go about their business without really wanting so much. They just do what they do, and they do it really well. And that is a cell, prokaryote cells. And we got to know a little bit about archaea and bacteria. O paano naman kayo mga kabayo? What life lessons have you learned today? Iwan nyo na lang sa comments sa baba. If you'd like to learn more about the 3 domains of life, archaea, bacteria, and eukarya, that's the 3rd domain, the domain under which we belong, along with plants as well, and also a bunch of other unicellular organisms that have a nucleus, just go ahead and watch these videos. YouTube is becoming this great place where you can learn biology, and I would be happy to point you to these channels. O paano ba yan? Susunod na lang, kita-kits, mga bagits. Inay. Thank you.